Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this very special holiday episode of Trauma Recovery University live Q&A Mondays. Happy holidays, and I'm Athena Moberg, and this is Bobby Parrish, and we show up here every single week, and we serve the global community of adult survivors of child abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse. Every week we show up here and we answer your questions on a new topic. Every week we have a different topic, and this week's topic is a 2-hour holiday special, and the topic is how to fully grasp the reality of what has happened to us, how to truly grasp and accept the fact that we were abused as children. Now, accepting our past is really key if we're going to move on with our lives. Now, I want to be very clear in this broadcast, like we are in every broadcast. If you've been here for any amount of time, we've been doing this for about 2.5 years now. And we want to make sure you know that we are not minimizing anything that you have been through. In fact, we are sitting with you, we are standing with you in solidarity, and we are saying, me too, us too. But what we're saying is when we can fully accept what's happened to us, then we can move through our pain and get past our past and heal what we've been through. And the way to do that can be different for every single survivor. And there are many different steps that go along in our recovery journey, and no two recoveries are the same. No two people are going to heal the exact same way. So I may take longer to recover than you. Bobby may go a different path of her recovery than I do. I may enjoy dialectical behavior therapy or cognitive behavior therapy or talk therapy, and Bobby may do different therapeutic modalities and expressive therapies. And for instance, you might do EMDR, or there's just a ton of different ones. We have so many videos. We have hundreds of hours of live Q&A videos here on this channel. And if you're watching on Roku, thank you. Welcome. We love you. We have the most awesome Roku family ever. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. We are so grateful for you. Today, we have our 1900th subscriber, and we're up to 84,000 views on our YouTube channel. And we're reaching people in over 173 countries. I haven't done the math recently, but you guys are all amazing. Thank you for letting us know you're receiving our resources and that you're finding them helpful. So in addition to this 2-hour special, we want to give you just a thank you, a gift of sorts. It is a complimentary access to a one-page downloadable resource that matches up with tonight's topic. You can get access to that resource, including our entire library of complimentary downloadable one-page resources, and you can get access to that for free, just as a thank you, by going to one of our websites and looking for the tab that says downloadables. Now, you can go to nomoreshameproject.com. You can go to traumarecoveryuniversity.com. You can even go to the About section here on the viewer that you're watching us on, and you can look how to reach us, and you can click on our website there if that's easier for you. So if you're tuning in on a replay and you are not here live with all of our family, our friendly family that we have chosen to spend time with, then I would like to let you know, as a convenience, you can go down to the bottom of the description section of this video, right before you hit the comments, and there is a little blurb there that says, if you're tuning in on a replay and you don't want to listen to everybody's questions, and you just want to view the content that is a downloadable resource, then you can simply click here and it will fast forward. However, I say that tentatively only because usually what we have received feedback on from all of you, that when you hear other people ask questions and you watch us answer those questions, or you listen to us answer other people's questions, you have light bulb moments. you've shared with us that it's other people's interaction and questions that have helped you the most in your recovery journey. So we welcome you to sit and spend the next 2 hours with us as we choose to heal in safe community alongside all of you, the global community of adult survivors of child abuse. Or you can fast forward if you're on a replay. I want to say a very special thank you to Matt and Jack, who are moderating the YouTube chat box. And I want to say a very special welcome to Anne Austin, it's her first time here with us live, and everyone's welcoming her. And I just saw so many of you saying hello and giving her some helpful tips on tweet chat and how to use the hashtag, and just welcoming her into community. So thank you to all of you guys. You guys are amazing. You are the reason this community is so beautiful and so powerful and so healing. So I just want to, again, thank you for choosing to spend the next 2 hours with us on this very important topic. And I just want to mention briefly, so the whole accepting the reality that we were abused it's deceptively deep. It sounds like, well, of course I'm going to accept the fact that I was abused. Like, it's reality. I was abused. I accept it. But sometimes accepting the reality of our abuse and what it is that we went through and the layers and to the degree that we were actually affected is something that takes a really long time, and it takes a lot of courage. So if you are here and you are watching this broadcast, or you are listening in on a podcast, I just want to tell you how proud I am of you. And I want to say, way to go you, because it takes a lot of courage to want to delve deeper and heal from old things that happened a long time ago that are still affecting us today. These traumas that we have survived at the hands of other people, the abuse that we incurred, for whether it was a one-time occurrence or for years and years and years, these things, they affected our brain. They affected our brain and have caused us to struggle in so many different areas of our lives. Some of the survivors in our community are dealing with autoimmune diseases as a result of just a weakened immune system. Some people are dealing with things like MS or rheumatoid arthritis or brain damage, or struggling with executive functioning, struggling with procrastination, self-sabotage, toxic relationships, repeating old patterns, not being able to break the cycle of intergenerational family abuse within a family unit. These are things that are all very, very real. And as we choose to move forward in our recovery and accept the reality of what it is that we've actually endured, it uncovers layers of pain and layers of webs that go out to different family members and abusers and enablers. And we can really rationalize, like I did and so many of us do, for years and years and even decades, of why it doesn't make any sense to even think about this, deal with this, heal from this, move on from this, or accept this. I personally rationalized that I didn't need to deal with any of my past abuse whatsoever, because I didn't want it to get messy. I just wanted to cultivate a relationship with my abuser. I just wanted to forget all of the bad stuff that ever happened between us. I wanted to forgive my enablers. I wanted to just live a normal life. I just want to be normal. I just want to be normal. I mean, if there would have been like a hashtag that was me, or like a mantra that was my life, I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to feel normal. I just wanted to delete and hit the delete button on my past and my abuse as a child, and the years and years and years and years of covering it up and lying and silencing and living in shame. And I just wanted to hit the delete button. And I quickly, or actually not so quickly, learned that there is no delete button and there is no easy button. And so that's just a little bit of like who I am and the way that I've sort of tackled my recovery journey, and why it is that I am here serving this community right alongside Bobby Parrish, who is an incredible friend, colleague, and has been a mentor to me in many ways, as she is to many of you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Bobbi. We're going to have a very in-depth discussion, answer all of your questions on the topic of accepting the reality of our abuse that we endured, and how to move forward in our lives, and how to fully accept what we've been through so we can live a life that's worth living, a life that we deserve, a life that we love, that's filled with healthy, deep, meaningful relationships, and no trace of dysfunction that we may have been living in for so long. And these things don't come free, and they don't come quick. Some of them come at a high cost, and relationally or even financially, by receiving professional help. And it's just not easy. There's no easy button. So while there is no easy button, you do have Athena and Bobbi, and we don't shy away from the tough topics, and we will be here by your side in solidarity with you. So I'm going to turn this over to Bobbi, and she and I are monitoring the Twitter stream right now. She's monitoring the Twitter stream while I speak with you. And then when she speaks direct to camera, I take over the Twitter stream and I say hi to you and see how you guys are doing. So I'm going to hand this over to Bobbi, and I just want to say thank you for choosing to spend this 2 hours with us. We are grateful and honored that you would be here, and that you are choosing to heal right alongside all of us. So I'll hand this over to you now, Bobbi. Take it away.
Thank you. I want to issue a welcome to Curtis, who's here with us tonight for his first time. And we're so happy to have you here. So we want to wish you a warm welcome to our family. I want to issue a big trigger warning for tonight's broadcast. I know the label might seem a little innocuous, but this can be a very difficult subject for many of us. So I want you to take good care of yourself while you watch, while you listen, while you tweet tonight, and be careful that you don't get triggered and overwhelmed. If you feel overwhelmed, I really encourage you to step away. Just turn things off and do some amazing self-care. Come back to it when you're ready and when you're feeling better, because we don't want you to feel badly while watching this video or listening to the podcasts. If you are triggered or you're in crisis and need help urgently, we encourage you to reach out, if you're in the U.S. and Canada, to our friends at RAINN. That's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. They are available at 1-800-656-HOPE, HOPE. You can also use their crisis chat feature on their website, and that is rainn.org, RAINN, RAINN.org. If you're in the UK, you can reach out to the Samaritans, and they're just an amazing organization that offers ways that you can interact with them, either in person, via email, via text, via hotline, on Twitter. They're just providing so many useful services. You can talk to them at 116-123. You can text with them at 07725-909090. Or you can email them at jo@samaritans.org. If you're in Australia, where we have a growing community, you can reach out to your national hotline, which is 131114. I almost have that one memorized in my head. Before I go any further, if you're here watching us live, I want to let you know that right now, between now and the end of Wednesday, I am running a Pay What You Can Afford special for my one-to-one coaching. I want to be able to provide services to anyone who needs them. I don't want cost to be a barrier. I've had a wonderful year. It's Thanksgiving. I was lucky enough to have a therapist and a psychiatrist who worked with me when I was at my lowest point for very reduced fees. So if you would like to take advantage of that, I encourage you to pop over to my website. BobbyLParish.com, and there's a page that says Pay What You Can Afford Special. And all I need you to do is email me and let me know what you can afford, about how long you'd like to work with me, and what kind of time frames you have that you need appointments. And that's it. And it's good for as long as you want to work with me. The price won't go up. And we'll get you through the holidays and, go into 2017 really getting a chance to tackle the issues that are hard for you in this time, in these moments. So tonight we're talking about how to accept the reality that you have been abused. I can't even begin to tell you how many of my clients, I would say close to probably 90% of them, have at one point or another in our work together gone, do you think maybe I'm making this up? Or I don't know if I can rely on these memories. I don't know, maybe this wasn't true. And that happens most often with those of us who have no external source of validation. Okay, so there were no witnesses to the abuse, which of course is something that our abusers have orchestrated because they didn't want there to be any witnesses. So there were no witnesses to the abuse. Anyone who enabled our abuser is going to continue to enable them and not admit what they know that happened. Our abuser hasn't been forthcoming and stood up and claimed what they did. And anyone else in the family who might have knowledge is keeping silent. And so the only person who can validate your experience is yourself. And it's very hard to validate yourself. It's one of the reasons why we push for people to get into community with other survivors. Because when you get in community with other survivors, you see people thinking, acting, feeling exactly the way you do. And it is the most incredible and sometimes freeing thing, because you know you're not alone. And if they have an experience just like you do, if they are feeling and thinking and behaving in ways similar to you, that will give you some validation. But sometimes we don't want the validation. It can be one of the hardest things you will ever do in your recovery journey, to accept the full reality of what happened to you. And why? Because for most of us, it feels like we will get sucked into a storm of pain that we may never get back out of. Or perhaps we still have a relationship with our abuser and their enablers. And we're afraid if we step fully into the truth of our abuse, that it will jeopardize our relationship with them, or they'll ostracize us from the family. And it's really hard to be orphaned due to sexual abuse as a child. It's really hard when you don't have other good connections to feel like you're adrift without an anchor and without a relationship to other people in this world who have your back and who know you. That's hard. I have worked with so many clients who struggle to step into that truth of what happened to them because they don't want to have to walk away or be forced to walk away from their family. And then, we may have watched people. We may know other survivors, and we've watched them struggle in their recovery. And perhaps we've watched them become disabled due to the depression or anxiety or the PTSD that they have experienced because of their abuse. Perhaps we've watched them develop a full-blown addiction to alcohol and how hard it was for them to get sober, or maybe they still aren't sober and they've lost so much in their life due to their addiction and their childhood abuse. And we say to ourselves, I'm not doing that. I am not stepping up and accepting that this happened to me because I don't want to feel like that. I don't want my life to look like that. I don't want to risk the things that I have. You know, I have watched people suffer with believing that they will decompensate to the fact that they'll lose their job, they'll lose their children, they'll lose their relationships. But like Athena said earlier, everyone recovers in a different way. Everyone gets helped with something different. Just because someone else struggled with A, B, or C doesn't necessarily mean that you will struggle with A, B, and C. It's interesting because my sister and I came at the reality of what happened when we were children in two different ways. You know, I tackled it starting in my late 20s and suffered tremendously. You know, I became disabled. I was suicidal, had a suicide attempt, in and out of psychiatric wards, at least 5 different psychiatric hospitals, got divorced, just struggled, was in so much pain for about 5 years running before I really got my feet on the ground. My sister went the route of denial. And no, this didn't happen to me. I'm not going to deal with this. You know, she looked at me and she went, oh, heck no. I'm not going to face anything because my life might look like that. And I don't want to go there. So she chose one path and I chose another. And it has gotten her what she wants. And I will always love and support her. I chose a different route. It doesn't mean that mine was better. It just meant that not facing my abuse I just felt dragged into it feet first. So I didn't feel like I could afford to deny. But some people go that route. And you know what? If that's what you want to do, if that's what you choose to do, we're here to support you. You know, you have our support no matter what choice you make. I think that it will be hard to heal completely from your abuse unless you step inside of it and accept it and deal with it. But I recognize the power that you have to make choices and choose the timing, choose the way, choose the path that you step into that full acceptance. I think there are still some things, even after how long I worked on my recovery, there's still a few little tiny pieces that I haven't stepped fully into. And I will do that. I'll need to have to do that because that's my choice. But if you're at that place of 1 foot in yes, it happened, and 1 foot in no, it didn't happen, that's what we're talking about here tonight. That's what we want to take questions on. That's what we want to examine. That's what we want to talk about. You know, what do you want to do? If you want to face it, how do you face it? If you don't want to, you know, what does that mean? What's the downside to that? How can that hamper you? How could it help you? And I'm excited to see if we have any questions yet on the Twitter stream. Miss Athena?
Yes. One of the questions, interestingly, you just answered.
Okay.
Actually, was from Miss Simi. And
okay.
Simi asked, do we have to accept it in order to heal? And my answer was yes. And then when you were done talking, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was going to say, hey, Bobby, Simi asked, do you have to accept it to heal? And you said, unfortunately, yes. In order for us to fully heal, we do have to step into our pain and we have to accept it. And then the second, did you want to comment on that? Because I know you already answered the question, but
and I know that's hard. That is that's such a hard place to stand there, one foot in each place and go, do I really have to go over there? Do I really have to go over there? But yeah, if you want the complete healing and you want the complete freedom to live the life that you love, you do. And I know it's like saying, do I have to go stand in the middle of that fire pit? And it's hard to say, yeah, you got to go stand in the middle of that fire pit, but maybe it won't be as much of a fire pit for you. I hope not, Simi.
I hope so too. Katie asked a really, really, really good question. And then I kind of wanted to comment on something that you had already said, Bobby.
You bet.
So this is a two-parter and it's kind of long. So, okay. So Katie says, what does it mean to accept it? I mean, she says, I kind of feel like we don't really have a choice. Like it just is. So what does accepting mean? And I'm like, wow, excellent question, right? Because what does that even mean? Accept it. Is that like, ooh, like it's almost like jargon, but not like, and I don't want to forget to comment on something that you said earlier about going the route of denial, Bobby, but I want to answer this and then have you answer. And then I don't want to forget to add to something you said about we can either go the route of denial or we can go the route of acceptance. Okay?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so Katie, honey, this is for you. Okay, so for your excellent question, what is acceptance? So Bobby touched on this a little bit ago, and she was talking about going and standing in the fire. And that's sort of like what it's like to heal because we're in it, right? So we do have a choice to accept it. It's interesting that you would say, what is acceptance? And it's almost like we don't have it. There is no choice. It just is. And I am in that camp. I'm like, yeah, just got to accept it. Like it just is. It's not like I can just pretend it never happened. But interestingly, and just as we can choose to deny and then move past it without really dealing with it and just like sort of like, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't have time to deal with that right now. Who has time for that? It's like, I think that a good example of choosing to accept something, or it's kind of like when you feel like you have a cold coming on and you're like, I do not have time to be sick right now. Like, I am going to will myself to not be sick right now because I'm on a deadline. I have places to go, people to see, things to do, kids to raise, dinner to cook, a house to clean, a job to go to work, to go to. Like, I'm going to do all those things and I'm not going to go lay in bed and be sick because I don't have time to be sick right now. And so that's kind of not choosing to, because you're going to push through it and be like, no, I'm not going to accept the fact that I'm sick. I'm going to do a bazillion other things that need to get done before I go, okay, like I feel this cold coming on. I know that if I were to lay down today and stay home and rest and drink fluids and take medicine, I'd probably wake up tomorrow, feel 100% better, or at least 80% better. And it might not fully take over my immune system, but I'm not going to do that because I can't. Soccer practice is at 4:00. I have to leave work at a certain time. I'm in charge of the carpool. I have a house to clean, dinner, like I just said, like a few minutes ago. So it's like, you're accepting it, but then like there's a fine line between accepting it and denying it and moving on anyway. And it's I don't feel like I'm answering the question to the best degree that I would like to be answering it, but to me, it does seem like accepting it isn't really a choice. It either happened or it didn't. Like, we just can't really choose to not accept it. It is. It just is. Reality is reality. But I've been in both camps. I did deny it for a really long time, and it didn't get me the life I wanted. Like, it basically ended me up having a meltdown. But I did succeed in denying it and not accepting it for a while. I feel like not accepting the reality of our abuse is kind of like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. That's my answer. Bobby?
I think that I think there's a difference between accepting the reality of the factual events that happened and accepting the emotional reality of what happened. It is a very, very painful thing to be able to sit down and say, the people who I came into this world in their care to protect me chose instead to betray me and willfully hurt me. That's a different thing than to say, yep, I was abused as a child and I'm moving on now. I hope that makes some sense. If I have someone who comes and sits in front of me and they're able to tell me their story without a significant or an amount of emotional display, they either cry or, you can just see the emotion in their face and in their words, I know that either they haven't dealt with what happened or they have dealt with it, they've done their work, and they can now share their story without it causing them emotional pain. So for me, there have to be both elements. We have to accept that it happened factually, and we have to accept the meaning behind it. That's the piece that I think so many of us struggle with, and rightfully so. If you can think of, if you had a child, a son, a daughter, a niece, a nephew, perhaps a student in your classroom, and they came to you and they said, 10 years ago, this horrible thing happened to me. It would make perfect sense to you if they were really emotional about that, if they were heartbroken, if they were feeling so much pain. And the same applies for us. It is heartbreaking to be able to say and fully, with full acceptance, my father raped me for 8 years of my life. My mother looked the other way because her needs were more important than mine. And nobody would help me. They all told me it was my fault. In fact, they told me it was something that God wanted to happen. That's the piece, that meaning behind it, that we have to fully embrace. And it is painful. And I talk a little bit about, how it really does. I'm sorry, but that analogy, as awful as it sounds, it does feel like, for some of my clients, that I'm asking them to step into the middle of a fire. But you have to go in and feel those feelings in order to let them go, in order to extinguish the fire so it's not there anymore. Because otherwise, all you're doing is dancing around the edges of it. And sometimes you dance enough close to the flame that your pants catch on fire. Or sometimes you singe your hand. But all you're really doing is prolonging the agony. You do. You need to step into the fire. Will it be hard? Yes. So the best thing to do is to arm yourself with as many tools, as much water, and, wet towels and blankets as you can before you head in. And that's what finding a good therapist or finding a good coach or finding a solid support team are all about. But if you just dance around it, or if you turn your back to it and you say, nope, doesn't exist, it's going to keep burning. And it's going to dog you for years. And I fear that that's the kind of thing that leads us to addictions. That's the kind of thing that leads us to drugs and to alcohol, to, acting out sexually. That's the kind of thing that leaves us vulnerable to more predators coming along, to spouses or partners that want to beat us and abuse us. You got to turn around. And once you're properly equipped, you got to walk into that fire, because it's not going out. Never, ever going out until we put it out. So I hope that helps clarify. Let us know, Katie, okay? Athena, what did you want to share about the acceptance versus avoidance?
Oh my goodness, yes. Thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Because I will definitely just get all caught up in this and then completely forget. As soon as I tell you, or as soon as I respond and I sort of explain and unpack it, is it okay if we go into our one page and then come back and discuss some more? Because Curtis just mentioned, I live in that space between yes, it did happen and no, it didn't happen, and I don't know how to get out of it. And we discussed that and how to get out of it in the one page. And so I feel like that would be super helpful for everybody.
Yes. And that's a hard place to be too, because it's like standing one foot on the dock and one foot in the canoe, and your legs can only go so far apart.
I
you feel like a wishbone.
Right? I explain to my clients that they're in an uncomfortable position because the fence post is up their behind, because they're sitting on the fence, like, I know that's a horrible, visual, but it elicits some laughs, of course. But I mean, when you're sort of sitting on the fence between this did happen, this didn't happen, it's the most uncomfortable place to be, because the fence post is up your behind. Or like you said, one foot's in the canoe and one foot's on the dock, and you are going to be a wishbone in a second. Like, you're going to snap. Like, you feel like you're going to end up falling in the water.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So what I wanted to share, you guys have shared with Bobby and I several times, actually, that when we go into detail about how we handled a situation, whether it was for the better or for the worse, regardless, that really helps you and that gives you some light bulb moments. So when Bobby was explaining how the route of denial and Bobby went the route of acceptance, and I don't want to add or misspeak if about anything that you said, Bobby. So
okay.
Did I say that correctly? Am I saying what am I okay, good. So that's okay, I'm gonna put my phone down. So I have lived Bobby's sister's life and Bobby's life is what I'm trying to get at. And that is for years and years and years and years and years. Most of you already know this. I'll give you the Reader's Digest abbreviated version. So I was raised in an abusive home, super duper crazy abusive, drugs, alcohol, lots of marriages, divorces, domestic violence, trading and sort of like giving away and selling and like weird stuff of, me and like my step siblings were really abusive, but at the same time we were sort of trauma bonded. And that was the first 17 years of my life. So for 17 straight years, there wasn't really a steady ground to stand on. I didn't have any privacy. There were no locks on any of the doors. I was yelled at and screamed at no matter what I was doing, whether it was showering, going to the bathroom, doing the dishes, pulling weeds, raking, whatever it is. There was always like, I was never in anybody's good graces. I couldn't do anything right. No matter how good my grades were, no matter how many times I got the lead in a play or a solo in a performance in orchestra or choir, nothing was ever good enough. And so at 17, and I got a scholarship to college, but then my mom, I told her about my scholarship and all I needed was a car, and I got a car and she stole my car so that I couldn't go to college. And then she kicked me out of the house and told me I wasn't welcome. So then I had to find a place to live, and I moved in with my boyfriend, and then I ended up getting married and having my son at 17, 18 years old. Like boom, 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 like really, 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 really young. So I went from a very abusive home life for 17 years into a dysfunctional relationship and marriage with someone who was not kind. And he was also extremely emotionally and verbally and slightly physically abusive, but any physical abuse is wrong. I had minimized it because I was convinced that if I wasn't bloodied and beaten up, that it wasn't a big deal. So abusive childhood into an abusive marriage. I was in charge of a human and wanted to make sure that he had everything that I never had and that he didn't ever have to see or experience anything that I ever experienced. So what did I do? I did what Bobby's sister did. I went, okay, suck it up, Buttercup. You have a life to live and you have a human to raise. And you need to get over this shit. And you need to move on and you need to figure out how to have a good life. Because you need to model that for this child. And he needs to never, ever, ever, ever know or experience or see or hear or even have a glimpse of anything that you have been through. Because he'll be just as screwed up as you are. I already knew that I was way messed up in the head. I knew it. I was like, I'm going to need like a lot of therapy. I remember saying that out loud going, wow, it's going to take a lot of therapy for me to get over all the stuff that I've been through. This is some crazy shit. And I was like, but that's okay. Gulp. And I moved on and I lived Bobby's sister's life. And it gave me what I wanted. I accomplished my goal. My son never saw, heard, or experienced anything like what I experienced. Mission accomplished, right? I win. I win at life. Wrong. Because that is only a temporary fix. Back to my original analogy, which that was a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And that didn't work for the long run. Yes, it accomplished my short-term goal, which was to raise a child that didn't have anything that I had. But guess what? And he left at 17 to go off into the military, and he wasn't supposed to deploy. He was a linguist. He wasn't going to be in like combat or go to war or anything, right? He's going to be reading books and he's going to have like a desk job and he's going to be safe and everything's great. Guess what? He deployed not once, but twice. He did. All those years of me swallowing it all and pushing forward. Okay, nobody has time for this. Nobody has time to deal with all the shit you've been through, Athena. No one is going to believe what you have been through, Athena. Your life is crazy. If you tried to tell anybody about what you've been through, they'd be like, what are you smoking or what book have you been reading? Because it's crazier than a lot of novels. It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense. So don't tell anybody because no one's going to believe you. And this is just my internal dialogue. Well, all of that came crashing down in October of 2013 when my son deployed. He was supposed to be coming home for his birthday. I had a big party planned. I mean, he was turning 21. You know, he had just gotten married. It was awesome. I was so excited. Oh, he was going to have the homecoming of a lifetime. But guess what? Plans changed and he deployed. And when that happened, I don't know what it was about that particular incident, but my world came crashing down, you guys. Every single aspect of my abuse, every time I had been given away, traded, abused, yelled at, hit, punched, kicked, whatever, you name it, all of it came crashing down at one time, and I began to have hallucinations. I was having audible hallucinations. I had a visual hallucination. I was convinced that I was having a psychotic break, which turns out like having a psychotic break and severe trauma, they behave the same. So I wasn't having a psychotic break. I was traumatized. And I had what I know now to be symptoms of PTSD. Didn't know that then. All I knew is that I was losing my shit and that I couldn't function because I was having hallucinations. And who has time for this? Nobody has time for this. Guess what? My little Band-Aid trick of nobody has time for this wasn't working anymore. That was no longer an acceptable answer to what I had been through. So I reached out for professional help. I waited until the last possible minute to get professional help. And then I went Bobby's route. I had lived her sister's life. I had denied it all and shoved it and like, nobody has time for this. And I went on and I had a very successful career. I mean, a few of them, a few very successful careers. I excelled at everything I did. I was great and excellent at everything I did. Always. I was good. Top salesperson. I was employee of the month. You name it. I was the top of everything. I excelled. I was a perfectionist. I did everything to the nth degree. I was excellent at everything. That was no longer an option. I couldn't function. Like oozing that was happening out of like my eyes and nose. I couldn't really like speak right, and I couldn't leave my house because I would have a panic attack, and if I did, I would have hallucinations, so I couldn't leave my house because I just couldn't bring myself to leave my house. Couldn't go to church, I could not function because I had shoved it and chosen to not accept it for so long. I was 30-something years old, almost 40. That's a long ass time to be living in denial. And it just bubbled to the surface and I couldn't stuff it down anymore. That was no longer an acceptable answer. It just didn't work anymore. The Band-Aid wasn't enough anymore. I was hemorrhaging. My Band-Aid on the bullet wound analogy, the Band-Aid wasn't able to stay stuck on there because I was hemorrhaging everywhere. That was what was happening. So I reached out and got professional help. And then shortly thereafter, like 2 weeks later, I met Rachel Thompson and Bobby Parrish in Sex Abuse Chat. And I found purpose in my life. Wait a second. One that's been through this? Are you kidding me? This is amazing. These people are nice and they're kind and I don't have to hide and live in silence and secrecy and like there's a whole community of us somewhere. This is insane. And so Bobby and I met in January and we hit it off. And then within a couple of months, we had planned out this whole podcast. We had safe groups that we were going to be setting up. We had all these things planned out. We had books and anthology, all these things that we were going to offer this community. We were going to build this amazing community. And we've been going strong ever since for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So I lived Bobby's sister's life until it was no longer a sustainable lifestyle, until I could no longer function. And then I chose to deal with it. Now, would I go back and do it differently? Would I deal with all of my stuff when I was super duper duper young? Some of you watching right now that I've been tweeting back and forth with, you are in your late teens and early 20s. And I can't tell you how much hope you give me and how encouraged I am by the fact that you're even here and that you have the wherewithal to want to deal with what you've been through at that age. Would I go back and do it that way if I had a chance to do it that way? I don't think I would. And the only reason I say that is because if I would have been trying to heal and go through recovery while raising my child by myself in an abusive marriage, I don't know that I could have done it. I really don't. So I'm glad that I lived both lives. I chose to live in denial for 30-something years until it no longer worked for me, until I lost it and I wanted to die. I was suicidal. And then I chose to accept it, and now I'm living a life that I love, and I'm healing at an exponential rate because I'm surrounded by safe community, and it's amazing, and I'm grateful. It's always a choice, you guys. No one's healing journey is ever going to look like anybody else's. And us comparing ourselves to somebody else's healing journey is rarely ever helpful. It is seldom helpful to compare ourselves to others. So we either end up feeling crappy about ourselves or feeling envious or something. It's always good to just own our own journey, just own it and rock that journey. Just do what you know how to do and do the best you can. There are so many of you that feel like you're failing at life. You're flunking out of life. You feel like you're worthless. You feel like you're nothing. You feel like you're broken. You're beyond repair. You're suicidal. You just want to give up. I just want to tell you that I've been there. I want to tell you that I've been there. Okay? 3 years ago, probably to the day, I was having hallucinations in my kitchen. And the last 3 years, every single minute of every single day for the last 3 years of my life, I've been pressing in and pressing on and figuring out ways to deal with and accept what has happened to me and establish healthy boundaries and create and cultivate healthy habits in my life so that I don't melt down and want to die. So I'm not saying that you're going to be like magically wave a wand, yay, 3 years from today, bippity boppity boop, you're awesome. But I want to tell you it's possible because I have been right where you are 3 years ago, almost to the day. So in fact, 3 years ago, I couldn't even deal with putting up a Christmas tree because that would have required me leaving my home. So I put up a paper cutout of a Christmas tree on the wall. Paper shaped like a tree, and told my husband that was Christmas because I couldn't leave my house to get a tree. I couldn't bring myself to function to like go downstairs and get ornaments and put them on like an actual tree with branches and like what I didn't have the brain power. I couldn't deal with that. I just was not okay. So just to give you an example, I'm not like poor me, like poor Athena, give me your pity. Like that's not what this is about. I just want to give you like a visual, like paper and put it on the wall and called it a tree, like a Christmas tree, and like could not leave my home and could not function and could not get out of bed and just was basically suicidal every day. So wherever you're at in your recovery journey right now, there's no judgment here. There's nothing but love and acceptance. And I'm grateful you're here and you're around some amazing people right now, whether you're on Roku or YouTube or you're on the Twitter feed and you're tweeting back and forth with people, or you're over in one of our safe groups on Facebook, or you're in a coaching group of Bobbies, or you're whatever it is that you're doing place and you are making healthy decisions. And there is an excellent chance that 3 years from now, you're going to feel exponentially better than you do right now. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, Bobbi, and then some. Because I get on my little soapbox and I just can't shut up. But
people are responding. Simi said, "You're talking about me, Athena. That's me. How do I do this? How do I accept it? Please, I don't want this anymore." And Curtis said, "That's amazing. I'm relating a lot. The super achievement, the hallucination, stuffing it, great courage." So,
you all are not alone.
People relate, and I think it's so important that we share our stories with each other. Because, and Maggie made the comment that where you draw hope, Athena, you talked about, reaching out to the people who are younger than you, who started their recovery journey when they were young. and they're going to have, hopefully, many years of a life free of the after effects of their abuse. Maggie said, I look to the people in our community who are older and who have tackled it and gone on with their lives. She said that brings her hope.
Wow. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat that all of us are so different, but we are so the same in so many ways? I'm just in awe of that.
I think that, we push community a lot, but it seems like every time we talk about a topic, there's at least 2 or 3 reasons that come up as to how community would benefit you in terms of tackling that issue. And this is an example. As you talk about what happened to you and I talk about what happened to me, people out there are going, oh, wait, I experienced that. I had that. I dealt with that. I feel that right now. It's validating. And it's hard to accept the reality of our abuse without validation. So share your story. Listen to other stories. Listen to others' experiences since they've been in recovery. And you will find validation. You will find hope. And you will find it's easier to accept than it is to turn away from it with your back to the fire. Athena, do you feel like, should we do the one page and then come back to discuss some more?
Yeah. Dawn and Simi were like, goodness, Athena, you need to breathe. Yeah, I'm good, guys. I'm good. I'm fired up. No, I think that's a good idea, Bobby. I think I need your brain for a second, Bobby.
Okay.
There are some things in our recovery journey which are non-negotiables, even though we say everyone's recovery journey is different, Bobby. And I think I need you to either echo this or give me a yes, yes, or an amen, or a yes, or expound upon this for a second, because my brain is, I need to get this across before we go into our one page so that we make it loud and clear. Okay, so while everyone's recovery journey is different and looks different, there are a few non-negotiables if you want to fully heal. So, like, I've had clients ask me, I've had clients, Bobby, tell me, I'm ready, Athena, I'm ready. I'm 100% all in. I'm ready. I need to fully heal from this. I will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever you tell me I need to do. I'm going to tell you what I'm going through and what I've been through and what my current situation is. And I just need you to tell me exactly what you recommend. And I will do whatever you tell me to do, Athena. And then let's just say they tell me A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. And my response is, well, in order for you to fully heal, you may need to go low contact to no contact with your toxic family members who are texting you and calling you every day and re-victimizing you every time you walk in the door at their home, and then causing your children to lash out at you and give you messages through them. Like, even if you are not talking to your toxic loved ones, they're sending messages through your children to you. So you might need to change the way that you communicate with your family and establish some healthy boundaries so that you decide what is okay in your life and what is not okay in order for you to some sort of level of sanity. So that might be mandatory if you want to fully heal. Are you with me so far, Bobby?
I hear you, yes.
Okay, so when they hear what it really takes to fully heal, meaning establishing low contact to no contact with toxic family members, which is simply establishing and maintaining a healthy boundary, and then they come back and they say, but I thought my recovery was my choice. It's my choice. You're telling me that I can't talk to my family, Athena. They're all I have. And I'm like, no, whoa. Like, I don't want this, don't get it twisted, is all I'm saying. I don't want you all to get it twisted. We are not telling you that you need to not speak to any of your toxic family members in your recovery journey, period. But it is likely that if you are in very close proximity to, whether it's texting, phone, or your children are with them or whatever, with your abusers or with enablers, it is likely that you will not heal to the degree that you could had you not chosen to establish and maintain healthier boundaries. Are you with me, Bobby?
I hear you, yes.
Okay.
I'm tweeting and listening.
I just want to be super clear on the fact that while we do tell you that everyone's recovery looks different, part of accepting what it is that's happened to us is accepting the reality that there are abusive people in the world, and sometimes we're related to them. And sometimes, if we want to fully heal, we may need to limit contact with toxic people, even if they are people we are related to. Otherwise, we likely will not heal to the degree that we could heal. That's all I need to throw that out there before we go into our one page, because in our one page, we talk about, yes, your recovery it's all you choose. I don't want anyone to come back to Bobby or myself and say, but you said, Athena, you said that in order for me to heal and to accept my recovery journey, it's all different. No one's is ever the same. You said I could heal. Like, I would never want anyone to say heal and that my recovery journey is my choice. We don't want to lead you to believe that everything is rainbows and butterflies and unicorns that fart rainbows, because that is just not reality. Sometimes some hard decisions have to be made in order for us to heal to the degree that we want to heal. Am I saying that you need to cut off contact with your whole family and become a hermit and move to a desert island somewhere in the middle of the ocean? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I don't want you to get an illusion or a vision of grandeur that you're going to be super healthy, awesome, amazing, and have everything you've ever wanted while staying in close contact with people who are abusive or that blame you or that deny reality or that call you a liar or that gaslight you or manipulate you or trick you and lure you in with kind behavior so that they can stab you with like some sort of they twist it all up. They lure you in and then they get you, and then they lure you in and then they get you. So I think part of accepting the reality of what it is that happened to us is accepting that there are good people in this world and bad people in this world. And we are related to some of both of those groups of people, good people and bad people. And just because other people in the world think that people we're related to are either all good or all bad doesn't make it true. The reality is all of us are good and bad. There are just some people who do really bad things to children, and sometimes we're related to those people. And we have to choose if we want to stay in contact with them or not. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I think that it has broader applications, though. I think that sometimes the reason we might not want to fully step into the fire can be vast. I have had clients who have alcohol or drug addictions, and they weren't ready to go to rehab or stop that. And it came down to a very difficult discussion of you can't heal while you're numbing yourself with that alcohol and that substance. And I think, Athena, what you're talking about is another side to the same coin.
Yes.
You cannot heal, and like you said, to the extent that you would like, if you have people who are still filling your mind and perhaps even assaulting your body with dangerous, toxic, nasty stuff. It would be the same thing as someone getting some kind of maybe a cut on their hand, and then not putting a Band-Aid on it and walking around and, rubbing it against a tree, or, walking at people and putting germs on it or whatever. You can't heal while you're in that toxic, infectious environment. You've got to cover that wound, and you have to take it to a place where there aren't germs around so that it can fully heal. So there's so many things that keep us from not fully accepting the reality of our abuse. One of them is that heart-rending decision to go forward knowing that it may cause a rift that cannot be repaired between you and your family. It's knowing that in order to fully heal, you have to let go of the substance that you're using that numbs your mind and numbs your feelings. That's a huge part of recovery from a drug or alcohol addiction, or any addiction, is without that substance, without that food, without that porn, without that thing that you're addicted to, how are you going to cope with your feelings? How are you going to deal with the memories? It's just not stop doing it. It's stop doing it, and here's some tools and tasks in their place. So, on the other hand, I've seen it. I've seen people lead relatively happy lives while maintaining contact with their families. They put in some boundaries, emotional boundaries and physical boundaries. I've seen people continue on with their substance abuse and make progress in therapy. So it's not a hard and fast rule. There are very few hard and fast rules in recovery. I think the best way to put this one is, if you want to give yourself the best chance of healing, you will put yourself in an environment and change what you need to change in your behavior to create a situation where you have the highest chance of succeeding. That's what we're talking about. Is if you want the highest possible chance of succeeding to live a life that you love living, you need to do things like set boundaries in relationships, like stop addictions, like stopping, behaviors that put you at risk. It's that first part of recovery. It's letting go of those things and learning new behaviors. But I'm not going to blow sunshine up your skirt. It's hard. It's just hard to step full time into that acceptance. And I myself have been known to jump into the fire and go, whoa, this is awful, and jump right back out. Wander around for a bit. Yeah.
I've totally done that.
Yeah. And wander around a bit and, slap the flames out on my chest, and just kind of walk around going, yeah, I didn't really like that. That wasn't good. I wasn't ready for that. I don't want to do that again. But
Simi said, so when you say accept the reality of your abuse, you mean stop trying to numb the feelings out, accept them. And I want to be like, yes, girl, high five, because like Bobby and I have been saying, Bobby, we've said this so many times. If you numb it, stuff it, or avoid it, you're not accepting it. It's going to pop back up and hit you in the forehead right when you don't want it to, right when you're like, life is awesome. Bam! You get punched in the face with life. But if you choose to not numb, not stuff, and not avoid, then you are accepting it. And then once you accept it, there's all these beautiful steps on how to actually really heal and become healthy. And we'll cover that in a different broadcast, or maybe I'll do that just like a separate little video on it or something. But Bobbi, thank you for hearing what I was saying about the establishing healthy boundaries thing, which I guess what I was really describing is an addiction to people pleasing. And then you just tied a beautiful bow around it and included all other types of toxic behaviors, which are either numbing, stuffing, or avoiding. And if we're numbing, stuffing, and avoiding, we're not choosing the healthiest life we possibly could have by accepting the full scope of what it is that we've been through and all the aspects of our lives that it's touched.
Right. It's cheating ourselves. You know, yeah. It's like saying, okay, yeah, it's like, okay, here you go. We need you to run this marathon. It's 26 miles. Go now. Okay, so going while you're active in addiction, going when you haven't set boundaries that have led you a healthy life, is like, you know, saying, okay, well, we're going to tie your ankles together. Okay, go. Well, yeah, no. I'm going to fall on my face every 2 seconds. Either that or it's going to take me 12 years to go 26.2 miles while my ankles are tied together. It's not doing the training before you go on the marathon. You know, if I went to the starting line right now, I might finish, but it's going to be 2 days before I get there. So give yourself the best possible chance of succeeding. Don't hinder yourself. Good golly, you've already had so many people do that to you. You were beyond hindered as a child. You could not protect yourself. You had no power. You had no support. You had pain. And you had powerlessness. So do what you need to do to get yourself ready to make the journey. You know, gather those tools. Get that support system. Tackle that addiction. You know, set boundaries with people who are toxic with you. And then tackle it. And, you know, put everything into it that you can so that you can get through it as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Don't hinder yourself. Don't tie your own ankles together at the starting line and think that it's not going to be a handicap as you try and make that 26.2 mile journey, because it will.
Yeah. Grace says, I'm so afraid to step into the fire. I'm afraid if I let it out, I'm not going to make it. Then you will know how bad I really am. Hey, Grace, me too. Like Bobbi said, I have stepped into that fire and went like, whoo, I'm freaking out of here. I'm not ready for this. And I'll build it up and I'll be like, okay, I'm ready. I'm really going to do it this time. I'm really going to do it this time. And then I'll step into that fire thinking that I'm ready and then change my mind again. It's like, it's so hard. This is really painful. This is not easy. That's why it's stepping into the fire. That's why that's the analogy we're using. There's nothing easy about it. But I promise you that it feels like to have hallucinations and be non-functioning and suicidal and that close to dying because I can't fathom living. I don't think I'm going to allow myself to be in denial anymore. I think that the pain I'm going through right now of fully accepting the reality of not only the abuse I went through, but what it's done to my brain, what it's done to my body, what it's done to my mind, my body, my soul. I don't think that anything could be more worse than the reality of what it is that I've been through. And I just would never want to go back to that place of denying, ending up in that place of hopelessness ever again. So it's hard, but it's worth it.
I think we lose track of the fact that we have already gone through the hardest part. The sexual abuse, the abuse during our childhood, the chaos, the dysfunction, that was the hardest part. And we survived. You can do the recovery piece. It is easier. I know in our mind we can look at that and think it is not. But it is easier, especially when we set the boundaries and we get the right tools. Most of us lived in the fire for decades. What, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 years of your childhood, you lived in the fire. It was constant pain. It was constant barrage of abuse. This isn't the same kind of fire, but you already got mad skills. I think sometimes it's just a matter of you haven't found the right people to tell you that you're strong, you survived, you've got good skills, let's give you some more, and let's stand beside you. Get some people with you who've already gone through that fire and who know you can survive. Again, we keep coming back to this. This is why that we want survivors to be in community. Because we can stand there, and throw you a wet towel or, give you a bottle of water as you're standing there. We've been there. And we've walked through those flames and come out the other side and said, yeah. And if you listen to this and you think, oh, well, she says that, but, she must have had an easier time. No. If you've watched us for a while, both Athena and I's stories. Neither of us had an easy recovery. Neither one of us had an easy childhood. If I can do this, you can do this. Says the, once very mentally ill, homeless, divorced, separated from every good thing in her life person. You can do it. But you got to accept the fact that the fire exists and prepare yourself to walk into it and then walk into it. It's okay if you jump out every once in a while. You just got to be willing to jump back in once you get what you need. So, Athena, are there any more questions, or should we go ahead and put the one page up and then come back to questions afterwards?
Sharon says there are so many layers, it's really difficult to peel back. Yes, absolutely. And then I'm trying to look for questions. There are some comments that were just super powerful. Dawn was saying she told her therapist, sometimes I wish he had killed me, but he didn't. So that's why I choose to speak out and speak up and to make what happened to me worth something. And I just want to say, yes, you are amazing. And that's what Bobby and I are doing as well. That's what all of us are here doing. Every single one of you. That's what we're doing. Grace wants to know why this seems so much worse.
Why recovery feels worse than the abuse that we went through? Is that what you mean, Grace?
Let me see if there's a previous comment that I missed. Jack responded to her and said, the trauma we've stuffed rises up, and when we're able to handle it, we're healing. When we were children, we dissociated. We did what we did to survive. Now we feel it in the first person.
Yes.
That is an excellent, Dawn. That is an excellent, yes. Oh, and Jack just said, boom. Yeah, boom, Dawn. I hadn't considered it that way, but you're so right. Yes, When we're children, we dissociated. We weren't even fully present for it. If you guys have not read Bobby's essay and a couple of her entries that are all over, just Google Flyaway Girl, Bobby Parrish. You guys, we go somewhere else. We are not fully present for what happened to us oftentimes. We weren't there first person. Sometimes we floated over our bodies and we saw it in the third person, or we just weren't there. We went somewhere else completely. And now here we are. We're dealing with it first person. We're having to like fully feel all the feels, sometimes for the first time ever. Sometimes too much to bear, which is why it is tempting to numb, stuff, or avoid. But we are telling you not to, because it will stunt your growth and stop your healing. And gosh, fully healing and really pushing through this is so worth it, because we get to live our lives fully, and colors are more bright, and life is more fully lived, and relationships are deeper and more meaningful and satisfying, and things are less scary, and just, yeah. Okay. I think we should go to the one page, because we could sit here and talk about this all night long. Oh my goodness.
I just want to mention really quick that JG gave an excellent statement. I have forgotten this one from Churchill. If you're going through hell, keep on going. You know, because if we're on that journey and we get so far and we get afraid and we turn back, guess what? We got to go back that whole part again that we had already done once and tackled, and do it all over again. So if you're going to walk through the fire, go, you know, be committed. Go through until you get to the other side. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back and start again at the beginning. Does that happen? Yep. I probably did that several times myself. If you have jumped into the fire and jumped back out, if you have gone part of the way and turned around and gone back, you are in good company. In fact, I think it's probably the norm for it to take a couple of tries for us to really get in there. Or, as someone said, it's a layered journey. Maybe you've gone through one layer of it, and now you've got to go back and go through a different layer. But don't stop in the middle and turn around, because you'll just have to do it all over again, and that bites. But, okay. Joey asks, does anyone else feel like a child? I use the word child. She said little boy or girl. Now as an adult? Sure. I think sometimes when you go back and you experience those feelings that you would have had you stayed present and not dissociated as a child, it feels like, you know, and Dawn pointed this out a couple weeks ago, that trauma memories have no timestamp. And so when we bring that memory up, it's a complete and total experience of having been back in it. And we feel it as if we were the age that we felt, you know, originally felt it. So definitely, Joey, you're not alone in that one. I've been there. Been there, done that, and got the t-shirt.
Yeah, me too.
By golly, it's not even a nice looking t-shirt either. Okay, let's tackle this one page, and this may spur some thought.
This is a good one.
Sorry,
the font is so small, I had to fit it all.
Let me make it bigger. Okay, so accepting the reality of our abuse. One of the most frequent and challenging issues survivors face is accepting the reality of our abuse. Many of us do not have an external source of validation from our abuse. Often there were no witnesses, our abuser denies their crimes, and family members will not support us. In fact, a lot of the time, family members will deny our abuse took place or accuse us of lying about it. This can leave us in the place of being the only one who acknowledges the reality of our abuse. Just us, standing alone. In those circumstances, many of us will question whether we made it up or if our memories are in fact true. We know we're in great pain, and yet we still cannot fully grasp the reality that our abuse actually happened. We often spend days, weeks, months, or even years reasoning, how in the world could, insert mom, dad, sibling, coach, teacher, pastor, abuse an innocent child? Doesn't anyone care about this happening under their noses? How could no one have cared about me enough to notice or protect me from the abuse? Maybe this was all just a nightmare. Maybe I'm crazy or overreacting. Maybe they did not mean to hurt me. Aside from having no validation whatsoever, we may also resist accepting the reality of our abuse because we know it will cause us greater pain. While we still have 1 foot in, it did not happen, and 1 foot in, it did happen, we reason that we will save ourselves from the emotional pain of knowing those we trusted to protect us both failed and betrayed us. Facing this pain can seem greater and deeper than we can bear. Not that thinking we have made our abuse up is a simple thing to cope with, but it can seem to be the lesser of two evils. Sometimes we avoid accepting the reality of our abuse because we know doing so will destroy our current relationship with our abuser and or their enablers. We still might have a good or at least tenuous relationship with them, and we fear jeopardizing this. As victims of abuse, we have already lived with so much pain. We do not want to feel even more pain by disconnecting from or being ostracized by our own family. Add to this the fact that many of us were taught from a very young age that family is all you've got in this world, and we have a double bind, a seemingly hopeless lose-lose situation. For others, facing the reality of our abuse means we must do the hard work to recover. Perhaps up until this point, we could shove the painful reality off into a corner of our mind, only letting it affect us in minimal ways. Or we have not up until this point in our recovery, sorry about that, missed a line, or we have not up until this point seen the ways we numb our pain, such as addictions, as related to our abuse. Sometimes we have seen other survivors working through recovery and witness their pain and struggle. We may want to avoid this for ourselves. We may not want to sit in therapy and tell others about our abuse. We may not want to open the door to all of this ugly, heartbreaking knowledge. It would be so much easier, we think, to believe our abuse simply did not happen in the first place. But the truth is, if we do not accept the full reality of our abuse, we cannot participate fully in our recovery. We can only dance around the edges because moving fully into it and standing in the center is terrifying to us. To heal, we must step fully into the circle of reality. The upside to this is that the sooner we fully step into our pain, the sooner we will be able to make our way back out of it, healthy and living a life we love. To facilitate your full acceptance of the reality of your abuse, seek validation from other survivors. There can be tremendous validation in seeing how much your after effects match up with those who have gone through child abuse. The shackles can come off the moment we hear the words, "Me too." Seek validation from trauma-informed professionals. They too can help validate your abuse based upon their experience and expertise. Having a trauma-informed helping professional to meet with regularly can be life-changing for you. Okay, so I just want to point out, just take a quick pause right here and point out that those top 2 tips are how to validate your experience, because validation is a key step in the process of accepting the reality of our abuse. Begin to speak about your abuse with safe people. You can start as slowly as you like, giving as few details of your story as you would like. Sharing your abuse with those who will provide safe, non-judgmental support allows you to examine it in the light of day, rather than continuing to keep it locked in the dark recesses of your mind. Shame cannot survive in community. Know you are the only one who will be in control of your recovery. You can maintain relationships with your family if you choose to do so. You can move as slowly as you wish, and you get to determine which methods of help you will receive. Only you. And this is a core foundation in trauma-informed care, is choice. Okay? You need and deserve to be empowered to make choices in your care. You need to deserve to have every option laid before you and explained. Okay, so beware of the people who say, "I have the answer, here it is, you do these 3 things and you will be healed." Because everyone's 3 things might be different. It's your choice, it's your power. Know your recovery may not be the same as someone else's. Every journey is unique, and someone else's specific struggles might not be something which you will face. Comparing our recovery progress to someone else's is rarely helpful. Join in safe community with other survivors. You deserve to receive acceptance, support, and encouragement. When you finally receive this, you will begin to heal and recover from your trauma at an exponential rate. There is strength in numbers. Choosing to be in safe community with others who have lived your pain will help you feel stronger and less ashamed. We have free, organized, virtual safe support communities where you can practice new skills and become adept at creating healthy habits. Learn how to get plugged in with a free online safe support group for survivors by clicking right there if you're looking at the PDF. But we're not, so I can't click right there and it won't take us there. So hopefully that answered a few other questions. Have we had more pop up, Athena?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about questions.
Comments?
But a lot of comments. Joey says, now that I've opened up and started my recovery, I am that little girl with no one. And I just want to, let me sit up and act like I'm working. I get stuck in child mode sometimes too, Joey. You're not alone. It's interesting when we become more intimately familiar with what our triggers are. And we begin to realize what our triggers are. And then we sort of go back and figure out what they trigger and where it triggers us back to, like what age we are. Like I've shared this on multiple broadcasts, like since food was an issue when I was growing up and food was withheld, and sometimes we didn't have like food that wasn't spoiled, or I wasn't allowed to touch certain food, like the good food. I would get in trouble if I touched it. So like, even now here I'm like in my 40s, and occasionally if my husband hands me a piece of food or like says, here, want to eat? And if I find myself without even knowing it, be in child mode, and I'll say, like, my whole everything changes, my countenance changes, and I'll say thank you, like a little girl, like I don't realize that I'm triggered back to that mode. I'm more aware of it now, and I can sort of breathe my way through it, run my hands under cold water, get grounded, but I don't shame myself for it anymore. There are other triggers that are child mode triggers for me as well. And then a great question that was also asked Bobby was, do we ever really heal? Or are we always healing? Like, are we always, like, do we ever really heal, or are we always healing and just using the skills that we've learned in therapy, et cetera, et cetera? And my answer is, I don't think that we ever are just magically better. Like, I'm of the personal and professional opinion that we are always healing, but I do feel we get to a place in our recovery journey when our recovery does not dominate the majority of our lives, and we get to a place where we're actually enjoying and like living the life that we love and loving the life that we live, and we feel more equipped to deal with life. What is your answer to that question?
I don't think, first of all, I think we need to understand what our recovery looks like, because for some people, you know, for example, Athena, you didn't really go full bore into your recovery until about 3 years ago. I know you did some before that. So you might mistakenly think that recovery looks like what you were before 3 years ago. But that's not the case. Recovery doesn't mean that. That word "re" is misleading, because it doesn't mean you're going to recover back to the place that you were before you started having memories and started really to struggle and getting into therapy and maybe start taking medication. It's more like a reset, okay? A redo. And so we reach the point that we've done enough work that we're even better than we were before we started. Okay? We're more resilient. We have so much more self-worth, self-love. We can be assertive. We can face conflict, you know, without it knocking us to our knees. Does it mean that ninja triggers that come out of nowhere won't knock us to our knees? No. Does it mean that we will never feel any more pain about our childhood? No. I don't think we'll ever be 100% free of the after effects of our abuse. But I do think that we can get to a place where we've redefined ourselves by our hard work. We're now living the life that we want to live, not the life that we were living controlled by our fear and our abuse. I guess I just want to delineate that those are two different things.
Yeah,
I do think the after effects will be there.
Yeah, you illustrated it. You illustrated it perfectly. I think you and I said the exact same thing, but you went into much greater detail, and I think that it was definitely necessary, because we don't want to lead you into some false hope that you're just going to be, like sometimes we say, wave a wand, one and done. Nothing we do in recovery is waving a wand, boom, one and done. You're done. It's just a process. And I wish that some things, Bobby, I wish some things were one and done. But,
yeah,
you know, like Bobby mentioned a few moments ago, you know, like, I honestly thought that I had really dealt with the bulk of my recovery. I began my recovery journey and began accepting the reality that I was abused in the year 2000. And it was only because I had a loved one that was abused, and I immediately took them to counseling because I had never been to a counselor or like a therapist or anything like that before ever. But I knew instinctively that I needed to take them. That's what had to happen. And then they asked me if I had ever been to a counselor or a therapist and to heal what I had been through. And I was like, no, I'm good. Thanks. No need. And what a joke. I mean, are you kidding me? No, so I was like, I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. And her name was Kelly, and she really, really, really helped me a lot. Delve into some things that were very triggering for me, and I had no idea why. And so that 3.5, 4 year span was really revealing to me. And then I took sort of a 2 year break, and I numbed, stuffed, and avoided through busyness, alcohol, boyfriends, you name it. And just being a mom, like I was like, I drove my son everywhere and went to all the games and all the practices. And I just, like I said, busyness. So, and then in 2006, I began the next layer of my recovery journey where I delved much deeper and accepted the fact that I was sexually abused. And I learned what a boundary was and that I was living like with people pleaseritis. I sort of called it that. And she looked at me like, I've never heard of that before. I'm like, that's what it is. I have people pleaseritis. Like, it's like a disease. And it's deadly, and I am stuck in it, and I have been for 30 years, like I just, So I started dealing with boundaries and codependency and sexual abuse back in 2006. So that was 10 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm really good. And that was like, I'm healed. I'm good. Everything's fantastic now. And that was in like 2010. Been, I'm thin and I'm this and I'm that, but I didn't know that what I was doing. I was over exercising, I was withholding calories, I was in eating disorder behaviors again, which I already had struggled with. And I didn't realize until I got married, triggers came up that were sexual triggers because I was celibate until I got married. And so then all of a sudden those triggers came, and then a whole nother wave of my recovery began from 2011 to 2013, which I was just sort of maintaining for 2 years. 2011 to 2013, I was maintaining until what I shared earlier when my son deployed, and then I lost my shit and I started having hallucinations. So, yes, recovery, that word, like Bobby said, super misleading. It's more of like an uncovering, I think. Like,
that's
or you're discovering.
Yeah.
You're uncovering, or you're discovering. You're discovering things like I'm not recovering anything, basically. Like, I never had a healthy childhood. Let's just all be frickin' real, shall we? Like, my childhood was not healthy. Were there healthy moments? Like when my dad would pick me up and like take me out to eat at a restaurant? Yeah, for a minute. But it wasn't healthy. Like overall, it was, I got taken right back to the abuse, like a day later, so it's more of discovery and uncovery than it is recovery, I think. Yeah. Any questions, Bobby? It is that what is this that you speak of? What is this No. Are there any other questions that I missed?
No, people are talking about, I don't know who I was before this. I'm not sure I even met that person, or lived that recovery, that moment beforehand. And so I was just saying, I have no clue who I was before my abuse started. So.
Oh, Bobby.
What?
Grace says, I'm never going to be healed. I just want the old me back. Will I ever be her again? Grace, I hope you're watching. I will tweet you and tell you that I talked to you in the video and that hopefully you can go to 1 hour and 45 minutes and watch me talking to you in the video. Grace, my answer to your question is no. Wait, my answer to your question is no and no, but no, you will never just be healed, like miraculously, boom, wake up healed. But you will be healing, and you'll find you'll never be the old you, but you will. I love how Richard Grannon says this. This is a word that he uses that I got hung up on for a really long time. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it, but I'm going to use it. He says, in our Narcissistic Abuse Summit that we did with him a couple years ago, he said, no, you will never be you, the you that you were before, but you will find that you become more sovereign, in that you are more in control of your emotions and your feelings, and you are truly, truly you. You discover who you truly are, and not the version of you that was numbing, stuffing, and avoiding. You actually become a more beautiful, whole version of yourself because you've done the hard work. So, Grace, I really hope and pray that you can receive that in the way that it was intended, and that is with a whole bucket load of hope. Because I can only speak for me, but I don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be that girl that I was. There are parts of me that want to be parts of that girl. Like, that girl was skinny. She was skinny, and she had a bod because she was withholding calories and over-exercising, and she looked damn good in a bathing suit. Can I just have that part of her back, please? And then the rest of her that was super duper messed up in the head, can I just like be the whole, like, less messed up in the head version of me that I am now, but with her body? That would be awesome. But it doesn't work that way. Like, the reason that I was withholding calories and over-exercising and numbing, stuffing, and avoiding is because I was very unwell. And I had not chosen to heal. So while I do wish that parts, like, I was more carefree and I felt comfortable in my own skin, and I was more of an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert, and no, none of you believe me. I get it, because Bobby's the more introverted of the two of us, but I am actually an introvert. I get my energy and my fulfillment from being around one other person or by myself. This feels like one other person or by like, this feels like me hanging out with Bobby and like one of you. Like, I realize there are a lot of you here, like way more, like twice the number or 3 times the number of people that would be at like a dinner table or like Thanksgiving dinner. Like, I went to a huge Thanksgiving, but it doesn't feel that way because I'm just hanging out here and I'm looking at Bobby's face, talking to Bobby, and you all are here, and I know you're here, and I'm like with you on Twitter. But I do miss parts of me that were her before I had this new layer of healing that I've been doing, because it's freaking exhausting. You know, she was much more vibrant, much more of an extrovert, much more comfortable in her own skin. She wore super cute clothes because she was very skinny. But you know what? She wasn't really whole. And her life was not as beautiful as mine is. I have so much to be grateful for. And I feel truly, truly free in the healing that I'm experiencing right now. And whole is the only word that I can find that really describes what it is that I'm feeling. Like, I feel much more whole, like a whole human, and not this shell of a being that's going around somewhere. How about you, Bobby? Grace says, you mean I will never heal? I just want to be her.
Yeah.
What is your response to that?
Yeah. I told her, I said, you're going to be the better person. You still be her, but better, stronger, happier, more fulfilled. You'll be the better version of you. That person, it's not like they've gone away. But yeah, you will be different. But it's a good different, not a bad different. It's worth it. It's worth it, Grace, I promise. Curtis was asking, where does he find the one page? So I'm just sending out a tweet that says, go to the nomoreshameproject.com website, Curtis, and click on the tab that says downloadables.
Yeah.
And they are all there. There's
hundreds of them.
2 years and like 4 months worth. There. So print them all out. Print out the only ones you want. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And some stuff might apply, Curtis, and some stuff might not apply right now. And maybe it won't apply ever. And maybe like in 6 months it will apply. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, that just happened or something, So, and anybody that you know that needs it, please, 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 share. Simi says she's made great strides since she first met the two of us. You have, Simi. Your growth has been exponential and so beautiful and incredible. And it's an honor to be on this journey with you. So, you guys, thanks for spending 2 hours with us. We're going to transition right now to anyone who is new, and this is your first time here. Thanks for sitting with us for 2 hours. We're super grateful and honored that you would choose to spend 2 hours on you, on your recovery, and that you're choosing to really heal to the degree that you can feel whole, and that you're choosing to do the hard work. So we're honored that you're here with all of our community members hanging out, or even watching a replay. If this is you at 3 a.m, 5 years from now, good on you. We're super proud of you and we're grateful for you. We're going to transition the broadcast right now just for the next 5 minutes, just to wrap up our 2 hour holiday special on accepting the fact that we were abused, how to accept the truth of the reality of our abuse. And we're going to welcome new people by just showing you a couple of screen shares briefly that let you know how you can reach us, how you can find us on social media or send us an email, or we do offer services if you are in need of some sort of virtual services like Skype, coaching, trauma recovery coaching. And Bobby has groups that she's offering right now. There's a Thanksgiving special on her website. Go to BobbyLParish.com and you'll see a pay what you can afford button. There's a special button. Press that. We both offer services, and we're going to just have a couple of screen shares to show you right now how you can get in touch with us. But for the rest of you that are usually here every week, we're so honored that you've chosen to spend this 2 hour holiday special with us. And I'm going to turn this over to Bobby, and she's going to let you guys know how to find us. So bye, everybody.
Yes, let us do the finding. Okay, so these are the ways that you can connect with us. Oops. Do I have that right?
Yeah, ways to join our safe community.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yay! Okay. There are multiple ways that you can connect with us in community. They're all free. They always will be free. No cost for these services. We have 3 Twitter chats every week. The first is on Monday, and the hashtag is CSAQT, which stands for Child Sexual Abuse Question Time. That is at 10 a.m. Pacific in the U.S. and 6 p.m. in the UK. And then there is our second Twitter chat of the week, which is an interactive video and Twitter chat. If you're here with us right now live, then you are participating in that one. The hashtag is No More Shame, and that happens at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on Mondays, and 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK. On Tuesday evening is the third and final Twitter chat of the week. The hashtag is Sex Abuse Chat, and that is at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, and Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK. If you would like to join one of our Facebook groups, we ask that you follow this 4-step process instead of something else, because this is the easiest way for us to get you plugged into a group. So we ask that you like the Trauma Recovery University Facebook page, and I'll show you that link here in my next screen share. Then send both of us a friend request, because we cannot put you in the group without you being our friend. So we need that to happen. And then once one of us accepts your friend request, then send a message saying, I'd like to heal in safe community, or something like, I'd like to join one of your support groups. That, then we will connect with you. If we don't already know you from Twitter or Facebook or an in-person event, then we will ask you some questions, because we want to make sure that you're safe to let into our groups. And then we will post an introduction to you so that everyone else knows who you are and gets a chance to greet you. So let's look at the final screenshot here. And this one is going to be ways that you can connect with Athena and I. Let's pull that up. I should do present to everyone. There we go. Okay. So here are all the ways that you can reach out to us. Email addresses: BobbyLParish@gmail.com. Athena's is Athena Moberg Speaking @gmail.com. And we have our joint email address, which is NoMoreShameProject@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am Bobby L. Parish. Athena is Athena Moberg. And Trauma Recovery University has a Trauma Recovery U Twitter handle. You can watch all of our replays every week, and all the ones that have been ever taped 24/7 on YouTube, Roku TV, or Google+. Just do a search for Trauma Recovery University. Or you can go to the link bit.ly/Trauma Recovery U. And you do need to make sure that the T, the R, and the U are capitalized. On Facebook, we have our Facebook page, which is Trauma Recovery University. My professional page, which is Bobby Parish Coaching and Consulting. My personal page, which is Bobby Parish. And Athena's professional page, which is Athena Moberg Speaking. And her personal page, which is Dawn Athena Moberg. And that's it. That takes us back around to the beginning, where we are here.
Yeah.
Without any screen shares, and back to just closing comments and remarks. Athena, are you saying good night to everybody?
Yeah, I was just responding to Grace. She said, I just want to be strong. I'm afraid I won't like the new me. And I told her I have felt the exact same way, but I love her. I'm grateful that I'm learning to love myself. I'm learning to like myself and not feel such self-loathing and self-hatred and shame and frustration with myself. And like, I'm not so down on myself all the time as I was before. And I really never thought that I could ever kick that habit. And it was a habit. Yeah. It was an addiction. It was like a self-loathing addiction that I had. Like, it was just my modus operandi. It was just what I was taught. It was that constant voice from my upbringing, you know. That just,
grooming.
It was my grooming. Yes, it was my programming. So, but Grace, I felt the same way, and I know that you'll love her. I just know it. We already love you now. So
Yeah. And we have to remember that you have so much power to choose who she is. You know, it's not like our childhood where what happened to us was thrust upon us by, you know, people who betrayed us and didn't like us. Who you choose to become, there's a lot of choice involved there. And you get to pick. So it's not a process that's outside of your hands. It's not a roll of the dice or a pull on the slot machine. It's, you know, it's like, you know, doing a drawing from freehand. You get to pick what she looks like. So I know, like Athena said, that we will love her. We love you. And we hope that you too will grow to love yourself rather than feel like you have no place, no home, that you're lost and unlovable.
Yeah. We already love you. There's nothing you could do that would cause us to love you any less. Like, we just already think you're pretty amazing. So, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, guys. But I just wanted to share a couple of comments, Bobby, in closing. So, Shy Sharon says that she loves us and that we're her family. And she says she's beginning to understand herself, love herself, and grow unconditional love. And that's something that a lot of adult survivors of child abuse never experienced. Not only did we not experience love as children oftentimes, but what we did experience that we thought was love, or we were told was love, was actually a twisted, perverted, contorted version of someone else's manipulation and manipulative tactics and abusive tactics. And it distorted our reality of what we thought love was our whole lives. So we never experienced unconditional love. And this is a lot for a lot of our community members being in our groups and being here with us every Monday and in our chats. Like, it's the only time in their whole lives they've really felt unconditionally loved. I know that I experienced that when I found Bobby and Rachel online. I mean, I just got to show up and be myself, and they didn't tell me I was annoying, and they were just nice to me. It was like, wow. I mean, I was told that I was annoying my whole life. So to have them just be loving and kind and sweet to me all the time, it was like, what's the catch? You know, it was a little bit freaky at first. Like, this is going to end probably, right? Like, this is going to end badly. But it just never did. And, you know, what you see is what you get. So, so Sharon, thank you for the awesome comment. We are simply giving what we've received, and that is unconditional love. So, and Curtis says, thanks for doing what you do. It was difficult, and I almost bailed a few times, but I'm glad I stayed. And we are so glad you stayed, Curtis. We really are so glad that you stayed. So come back next week. It's not 2 hours next week, but you're welcome to come back. And it's on the topic of validation, which brings us to we're going to go ahead and say bye to you guys. But next week's topic is validation and how important validation is in our recovery journey. And, you know, sometimes we will cruise along in our journey of recovery, not even knowing that there's a such thing as recovery. And we think we're healing, and we are healing, but it's almost like we're healing at like a snail's pace. We're doing all this uncovering, and we're in therapy, or we're in counseling, or whatever it is that we're doing. But we never really feel like our experience is ever really validated. Like, it's minimized in some way, or it's shoved off in the corner, or it's talked about in the third person, like, you know, the thing or the incident, or, you know, what happened to me or whatever. But then all of a sudden, when you do experience someone else speaking your truth, it's so validating. You're like, no way. somebody else actually went through that. Somebody else not only understands what I've been through, but they've lived it too. It's just so, it's magical. It's miraculous. It's amazing. So that's next week's topic. Bobbi, what did you want to say to everybody before we say goodbye for the night after our 2-hour holiday special?
Thank you for being here, everyone. I know it's hard, and we really respect you for pushing through and being here. And we love you all, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah. I don't think we say that often enough, Bobbi. I don't think we say how much we respect you guys often enough. Like, we have such a tremendous amount of respect for the courage that you have to show up here every week, or to go through and watch all the videos on our YouTube channel, or read all the downloadables, or be in the groups and participate, or reach out for help. It takes such courage. We have such a tremendous amount of respect for you and just the effort that you're putting in to heal. So thank you for letting us know that you're receiving the resources and that they're helpful. And we do hope to see you next week on the topic of validation. Until then, this is Bobbi Parish, and I'm Athena Moberg, and we love bringing you everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery. Bye, everybody.